So the theoretical perspective I'm taking, I'm looking at conflict perspective. That explains why various aspects of our social world and how different groups of people benefit having the world set up the way it is. There are different ways you can do the conflict perspective. There's the feminist approaches and different race approaches, but I'm looking at critical theory. So it's first to understand the world around us, and then to seek change about how that world, how we can come about change. So I'm going to be doing that under the umbrella of social class. Okay, for the methodology and methods, the research will be from a teacher perspective and teacher understandings. This will allow for further research from a parent perspective at a later date. So at this very point in time, it is just teacher perspectives. I'll be using qualitative phenomenology, which is fairly typical of sociology researchers and research in the social justice area. After my discussion with supervisors, I moved away from the case study that is often used around family engagement research and that of successful policies. And instead, I'm moving towards a narrative inquiry, that of the teacher's story and their challenges in engaging families and the tensions of attempting to achieve social justice in this way. This will put a bit of a different spin on a lot of family engagement research that's already out there, which is generally based, or a lot of it I've noticed is based on case study. This allows me to analyse how teachers view the world, how they perceive the challenges they have with engaging families. It also allows me my narrative to come through as well, which can be identified early on in the research. Both narrative and life history approaches recognise that meanings are socially constructed and human actions and agency are contingent upon socio-cultural, historical and political influences. That's a quote from Simke and Lewin, and I thought that fit quite well into my rationale of choosing that. The main method used will be interview, will be in-depth interviews of teachers, which is fairly typical of narrative inquiries using the interview approach. I will also use some observation of just maybe the setting of the school and add that into the narrative as well. There will obviously be very in-depth interviews might get into the history of the teacher, their understandings of social justice, their understandings of the family engagement policies within the schools, what their beliefs are, what they think, or how they think they could improve the policies. Do they think that the policies work given the areas that they're in? Do they think it's based on middle class? Do they think it's based and suited better for their area? So a lot of discussion and understanding of how they perceive things to be. This is an area that I'm going to build on as the course continues. Given that I'll take understanding from Bourdieu, I will use his writings and theories as a basis for analysis, and use a narrative inquiry and analysis to deconstruct and reconstruct meaning. So within the narrative analysis, I'll have to sort out and reflect on what has been discussed. The core activity in narrative analysis is to reformulate stories presented by people in different contexts and based on their different experiences. So, as I said, I'll be deconstructing and reconstructing those meanings. Alright, where to from here? So first off, we'll look at ethics. It's low risk research, and much of that low risk is just from the discomfort in the interviews. There is also the risks of being identified, so pseudonyms and will be used for teachers and schools involved to keep that anonymity. With the timeline, looking at current trimester, so we'll be looking at a research proposal we're doing now and apply for ethics. Trimester 2 and term 3 within the school time, looking at the first set of interviews with teachers, collecting data, taking journal notes and reflections, start the initial write-up of paper and ideas. Also continue reading theory and even looking further into Bourdieu and things like that. Trimester 3 and term 4, let's follow up, so a second round of teacher interviews to see if their perspectives have changed or whether or not they're still similar, and complete the paper. So that would be, coming into December, January times where that will be completed if all goes to plan. Here is just a short list of some of the references used throughout the research. Okay, thank you for listening. Any feedback can be sent to my email there on the screen. The audio has been broken up into pieces, so it's very easy for me to be able to change anything that needs to be changed. So please, any feedback is appreciated. Thank you.